Title: My Boss Fired Me. 3 days before my pension vested, after 29 years with the company. Budget constraints, he said, sliding a severance agreement across the table. Sign by tomorrow or get nothing. I thanked him for the opportunity and left without argument. That evening, I made a single phone call. The conference room was cold. Not the air, just the energy. Sterile walls, fake plants, and the faint hum of fluorescent lights. I sat in the same chair I'd chosen for 29 years. Same corner. Same view of the cracked ceiling tile above the projector. Across from me sat Jason Keller, my boss of 6 years. 32 years old, MBA from somewhere expensive. He still called me kiddo sometimes, though I was old enough to be his mother. He adjusted his tie and pushed a beige folder toward me. Claire, I'll get right to it. This is difficult. I already knew. I'd seen the HR director standing awkwardly in the hallway. He wasn't supposed to be here today. Budget constraints, Jason said, like he was ordering lunch. We're eliminating redundant senior roles. Redundant. After 29 years of building systems they still used. After mentoring 3 generations of hires. After not missing a single day of work in 11 years. Inside the folder, a severance agreement. 6 weeks' pay. No pension. And one line in bold. Employee agrees to waive all claims and rights associated with future compensation or benefits, including my pension, the one I was set to qualify for in 3 business days. I looked up at him. He didn't meet my eyes. Sign by tomorrow or get nothing, he added. I'm really sorry, Claire. If it were up to me... But it was up to him. He wanted a clean sheet on Q1 headcount, and my name was the easiest to cut. I closed the folder gently, pressed my palms to the table. Thank you for the opportunity, I said. Jason blinked. You're not going to fight this? I smiled. Number. You've made your decision. And I walked out. I didn't slam the door. I didn't cry. I went home, poured a glass of wine, and sat in the quiet of a house I'd built from years of loyalty they never saw. Then, I picked up my phone. I made one call. Not to a lawyer, not to HR, to Terrence Martin, former Vice President of Operations, retired 3 years ago. But more importantly, the man who built this company before Jason Keller even had a driver's license. He answered on the second ring. Claire? His voice was warm. To what do I owe the pleasure? Terry, I said calmly, I think it's time we catch up. You still serve on the board? A pause, then a low chuckle. I do. And something tells me you have a story. Oh, I do. And receipts. Terrence Martin met me at a quiet cafe near the old corporate campus. The kind of place where power players still drank burnt coffee from real mugs and didn't need to flash a logo to make a point. He was already seated when I arrived, hands folded neatly, silver hair slicked back like always. He stood as I approached and smiled, warm, familiar, grounded. Claire, he said, I've been hearing things. Didn't want to believe them. Tell me it's not true. I handed him a USB drive and a manila folder. Everything's in there. The severance terms, the timing, my HR file, and proof. Proof of what? He asked, already knowing. That Jason deliberately timed the termination to avoid triggering my pension. I was 3 days away. The budget excuse doesn't hold. They hired a junior analyst last week with a $95,000 base. He replaced no one. Terrence nodded slowly. He thinks the board doesn't pay attention. Because he knows how to polish a slide deck, I said. But he doesn't know how this place really runs. He chuckled. Still, doesn't know who put the original pension structure in place, does he? I raised an eyebrow. That would be you. Damn right. We spent the next hour going through every line, every clause. Terrence read in silence, eyes sharp, jaw tight. You kept everything. Of course I did. Good, he said, Because I'm not just on the board, I chair the Compensation and Ethics Committee. He slid the folder back across the table. You're not going to sue. You're going to walk in that boardroom with me next week. I stared at him. What are you planning? He smiled. What Jason did? It's not just unethical. It's violating federal ERISA law. You don't rob someone of their earned retirement 3 days out. Not on my watch. That night, I didn't sleep out of rage. I slept with clarity, because I hadn't lost anything. Jason had. He'd lost the quiet employee who took every hit and kept the machine running. And now, he was about to learn what it felt like to be treated as redundant. The boardroom hadn't changed. Still lined with polished oak, still heavy with quiet hierarchy. Jason entered with a slight swagger, carrying his usual binder of quarterly reports and projections. He was halfway through his pre-meeting coffee when he saw me. I was seated beside Terrence. His face dropped just for a moment, then reset into a plastic smile. Claire, didn't expect to see you here today. I smiled back. Funny, I could say the same. Terrence cleared his throat. Let's get started, everyone. Item 1. Termination reviews and ethics compliance, particularly regarding severance packages and pension-related decisions. Jason stiffened. If this is about Claire, I already submitted the paperwork to HR. Everything was above board. Terrence nodded. Yes, you did submit paperwork. You also submitted a quarterly hiring request 3 days later, authorizing a role with higher compensation than Claire's, and claiming the position filled a critical operations gap. He opened a file, which, according to IT logs and departmental memos, didn't exist. A quiet murmur passed through the room. Jason opened his binder, fumbled. I was trying to streamline headcount. Her role overlapped with no one, I cut in gently. I handled cross-department audits, legacy system compliance, and trained 3 of your direct reports. You replaced me with an entry-level analyst who now answers to someone I once mentored. Terrence leaned forward. You terminated a 29-year employee, days before her pension vested, knowing she was about to trigger retirement eligibility, and you hid it behind budget concerns while increasing spending elsewhere. Jason opened his mouth, closed it. No words. If you had asked for her resignation respectfully, Terrence continued, with an appropriate transition and vested benefits, we wouldn't be here. But you gambled. And now, we're facing not only an internal ethics violation, but potential federal pension fraud exposure. The word fraud hung in the air like smoke. Jason tried again. There was no ill intent. I just didn't think it would escalate. I looked him dead in the eyes. Number you didn't think I mattered. The chairwoman cleared her throat. We'll be moving into executive session. Jason, please step out. He looked stunned. Terrence motioned to the door. He walked out without a word. When the door clicked shut, no one asked me to leave. Terrence looked around the room. Gentlemen, ladies, shall we discuss restitution? The board deliberated behind closed doors for nearly an hour. I sat outside with Terrence, sipping lukewarm coffee while Jason paced on the far end of the hallway, jaw tight, hands twitching, fake smiling at every employee who walked past. He didn't look so polished anymore. He passed me once and muttered, "This was supposed to be simple." I didn't respond, because what he didn't realize? My silence wasn't surrender. It was strategy. The door finally opened. The chairwoman stepped out and nodded at me. Claire, they'd like to see you. I entered the room and took my seat. Terrence was already there. So was legal counsel. So were 3 board members I'd never spoken to directly in 29 years. The chairwoman cleared her throat. Claire, we reviewed the termination file, the pension vesting schedule, and Mr. Keller's recent hiring decisions. Your documentation was thorough, disturbingly so. A beat passed. We want to first apologize. Those 4 words landed harder than I expected. You should never have been treated as expendable. and certainly not penalized for your loyalty. Effective immediately, we are reinstating your employment retroactively, long enough to vest your pension in full. My heart caught in my throat. Additionally, we're offering a 6-month consulting contract, should you wish to stay on during transition. I nodded, slowly. I'd be honored. Jason was called in 5 minutes later. He wasn't offered a contract. He was offered termination, effective immediately. Failure to disclose conflicts of interest, misrepresentation of operational needs, erosion of trust. He looked stunned. You're firing me. Terrence stood. You didn't just fire Claire. You tried to erase her legacy. That's not leadership. That's liability. Jason turned to me, eyes wide. You did this. I stood, calm and steady. No, Jason. You did this. I just made a call. As he packed up his glass paperweight and emptied his desk, the office felt different, lighter. I walked past the cubicles I used to call home. People smiled. They knew. Back at my car, I took out the Severance folder he gave me weeks ago. Folded it once, dropped it in the parking lot trash can. Then I drove away. I walked into the building the next week as a consultant, not an employee, not a subordinate, not someone with anything to prove. HR met me with a badge that read, Claire Bennett, Strategic Operations Advisor. It felt poetic. Jason used to call me the old-timer who won't let go. Now I was the expert they couldn't afford to lose. I spent the first week reviewing the teams Jason restructured. He'd gutted compliance, overspent on culture initiatives that were all flash, no function. 3 hires with 6-figure salaries were essentially glorified assistants. The board gave me full freedom to clean house. I didn't fire anyone, but I made it very clear. You report to me now, not a legacy of shortcuts. One of Jason's former analysts approached me cautiously. I heard you're the reason he's gone. I smiled. Number Jason's ego is the reason he's gone. I just told the truth. They nodded. Well, we're glad you're here. Over the next 6 weeks, I reinstated the mentoring program he had cut, revised the outdated training manual he never read, brought back the quarterly check-ins for long-term employees. Every file I updated was tagged with my initials. Every system I fixed was signed with a timestamp. Because for nearly 3 decades, ICE was the silent force behind this place. Now, I was putting my fingerprints on everything. Before my final week, Terrence stopped by my office. You could stay longer, Claire. They'd be lucky to have you full-time again. I smiled. I don't need to stay. I just needed to leave on my terms. He nodded. Well, you've done more than that. My last act. I created a digital archive for the company's onboarding, one that included a video message from me, welcoming every new hire. It ended with this. This company was built on loyalty, patience, and quiet excellence. If you're here to rise, rise with purpose, and never mistake silence for weakness. My last day came without fanfare. No cake, no awkward HR send-off, no shallow claps from people who barely knew me, and I wouldn't have wanted any of it. Instead, I took one slow walk through the halls I used to walk briskly through each morning. Cubicles I once kept organized after hours. The supply closet I restocked more times than I can count. The break room I made sure stayed clean, because no one else would do it. Places Jason never noticed. But everyone else did now. As I passed through accounts, someone had left a handwritten card on my desk. Thank you for being the kind of leader no one had to fear. We'll remember. That was enough. I turned in my badge and my temporary laptop. And just before I stepped onto the elevator, I opened the company's new onboarding portal one last time, where my video now lived permanently. Watched, shared, referenced. Jason once tried to erase me 3 days before my pension. Now, my face was the first thing every new hire would see. 3 months later, I got a letter, certified, from corporate. It confirmed the deposit of my full pension. backdated. No conditions. And enclosed was a formal apology, signed by every member of the board. That same day, I drove out to the coast, booked a small bed and breakfast, left my phone off, watched the ocean for hours, not in grief, not in exhaustion, in peace. Because I hadn't just won. I had walked away with my name intact, my retirement intact, my story intact. Jason, he didn't even get a LinkedIn farewell. His position still showed as under review. They thought firing me 3 days early would save them money. Instead, they gave me something better. A reason to write my name into every corner they tried to erase. I'm not bitter. I'm just done being quiet about who actually kept the lights on. And now, the lights are on, with my name etched in the foundation. Was that justice, or just the beginning? If this story left a mark, tell us. Your silence speaks volumes, but your words build this community. If you felt that quiet strength, hit like. If you want more endings that don't scream but still echo, subscribe, and tap the bell so you never miss when revenge returns. Calm, cold, and beautifully earned. This is veiled revenge. We don't explode. We endure. We don't chase. We choose. And when the moment comes, we never miss.